Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, Martuni region, Nerkin Chartar village. The line of contact is a few kilometers away. The morning of April 2nd, 2016.
The fragile peace on the line of contact between Karabakh and the Azerbaijani armed forces collapsed on the
April 2nd, 2016. The villagers have recently received the worrying news of cannonade in the north of ARTSAKH. However, life under constant shootings and the threat of an attack has become a common thing for them. No one knows yet that Azerbaijan has unleashed an armed attack across the entire line of contact,
which hit the Martakert, Martuni, and Hadrut regions in the northeastern and southern parts of Nagorno-Karabakh.
Approximately at 8 a.m., my mother called on Skype and said that a cannonade was heard in their neighborhood. I did not tell her that my husband was called in to the military unit so as not to bother her. And then nothing exceptional happened. That would often happen. The morning was beginning as usual, but following the conversation with my mother, I was caught in anxiety. I walked down to our neighbor, Nushik. Then another neighbor came up and said that we should not worry, that shooting was common business in Martakert and Talish, but nothing would happen in our neighborhood. Nushik said that still, if anything happened, it would be easier to hide children here in the basements. At that time, my boys went downstairs to go to school. I was brushing my daughter's hair when the blast was heard. I put some clothes on quickly and ran out to the yard. I didn't even have time to get my phone to call my husband and tell him everything was okay with us. We went to school in the morning, as usual. We hadn't made it to the building when the blast was heard. We fell to the ground at once. We didn't hear anything at night. But in the morning, a friend called and said that relatives living in Martakert informed of a serious situation and that they had not sent their kids to school. I went downstairs and met the wife of our military instructor in the yard. I asked her to inquire from her husband whether we should not send our kids to school either, or maybe better to evacuate them. We have special facilities for cases like that. But around 8:35 a.m., I was already around the school, and perhaps 5 minutes later, we heard an explosion. We headed out to the school. An explosion hit in the road, and I fell to the ground. My leg was wounded. I was taken to the hospital in Martuni. My leg was operated on, and they transported me to Stepanakert. This is the secondary school of Nerkin Chartar, which has 131 pupils. It's 8:35 a.m. Just a few minutes left till the school children perform their morning physical exercises. In the morning, I was awakened by the roar of tanks. Guys called me. I went downstairs and we walked in the direction of the school in a small group. We stopped at the turning point and waited for Vartan. Then they moved ahead with Gevork, while we were standing in the corner and chatting. We did exercise every morning, as a must. When the weather is good, we exercise in front of the school, and in the hall if it rains or snow. At 8:30, we should be at school. Line up in front of the school at 8:40, and then at 8:45, the teacher comes and holds the morning exercise session. Classes began at 9. Can you imagine what could have happened had the shell exploded few minutes earlier, when the kids were already in the schoolyard? What a horrible scene it could be. I heard the first blast, then one more. Overall, 4 explosions, 2 in front of the school and 2 from the backside. Ahead of them, 10 steps away from Gayane, some children were walking. Among them was her eldest son, 12-year-old ARTSAKH, and his friend Gor. These are the children of free ARTSAKH, who were born and grew up in a country defending its rights to exist over the past 20 years. And although they are reminded of the unfinished war by the shootings in the distance, they believe in their God-given right to live in peace within their fatherland. Not far from the houses and the school, there are the trenches across the border and the line of contact that has become a border for ARTSAKH long ago, a border between good and evil. On that terrible day, the evil invaded their life from the other side, bringing death, devastation, blood, and sorrow. The scene was just horrific. Smoke, noise, screams, cries of frightened children. I ran out to the street and could not see my boy Vartan anywhere. I realized it was an explosion and I was wounded in the leg. There was a lot of blood all around. There was such a smoke that I could not see the others. Then my mom and brother ran in and I was taken to the hospital by car. I saw my boy Gor, who was running to me, his hands and face all in blood. I was crying, "What happened to you?" And his response, "Mom, don't be afraid for me. Everything is okay with me. Go help Gayane. ARTSAKH is bad." And he ran away, all in fear. Then I heard that Gayane and Nushik were crying and asking for help. There was none around. Everyone hid in basements. Only those who were remaining in the streets, whose kids were near the school, and everyone in fear that the new explosions would follow. There was an explosion and it went dark before my eyes. Then I felt that I was lying right there, near the car of our head teacher. I stood up and ran at that direction, but then remembered that in such situations, you should go hide in the basement. I returned and saw ARTSAKH. He was holding hands on his throat. I asked him, "Why wouldn't you run as they could hit again?" He was not able to speak and was pointing at his throat. I asked him, "You've been wounded or what?" He wanted to utter something, but was not able to. We ran together to that turning point. There he was, barely standing, leaning on me. And that way, we managed to run to the other end of the building. There we sat down, and I saw someone through the window and told him that ARTSAKH was in bad condition and asked for help. Someone else ran up to us, tore off the ropes of some linen, cleaned up the blood from his throat. They have already realized that ARTSAKH was dead. Two boys were lying on the ground. Then I saw my elder son, ARTSAKH. He was coming to me holding his throat, but I did not know he was wounded. Some people ran up to us, hearing my screams. I didn't even know how they took Gevorg to hospital, as I was all busy with ARTSAKH. Some accidental car stopped by, and we took him to the military hospital. Thus, in the early hours of April 2nd, 2016, Azerbaijan initiated the most unprecedented armed attack in 22 years since the ceasefire agreement. The village of Talish suffered the first hit. Then, Martakert, Mataghis, and other settlements in the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic came under shelling. Morning in Narkin Shartar began as usual, with a walk to school. Classes began at 9 a.m., and by 8:40 a.m., school children were lined up in front of the school for morning exercises. The elders already knew that in the northern regions of the Republic, some extraordinary events were happening. Yet in their area, it was still calm. Until the hours of 8:35 a.m., when the school children were heading to the area in front of the school. Suddenly, a large blast was heard. Then a second one, a third one, and one more. 4 blasts total. Show me, where did the shell hit? Right here. And the second one? There, behind the school. And the third one right there. And one more in the front, a bit further. A few shells fell there. They exploded in all 4 corners of the school building. The school was hit by a large caliber gun howitzer, firing multiple shells at a time. They were shooting from a distance of around 12 kilometers with shells of a very large caliber, D-20, which is capable of reaching a target 18 kilometers away or further. That's 5 kilometers deeper than our trenches. That is not even 122mm howitzer D-30, which has a maximum range of 15 kilometers. That was a shell of a 152mm gun howitzer, also known as the D-20. We were still lucky that the shell fell right there, because in a 3 to 4 meters from the site of explosion, on the sidewalk, around 30 kids were standing. You can just imagine how many casualties we would have had then. Also, imagine the gravity of the casualties. The school children were standing here. Here is where the first shell landed. It missed the children by just over 3 meters. It's not difficult to imagine what could have happened if the blast had occurred just a few minutes later, when all the pupils would have been gathered in front of their school. Surveillance drones were flying here all the time. Not far from here, there is military equipment which was used to down the drones. We knew that the territory is under surveillance and it's screened. We wouldn't even allow the kids to get together and stand in groups, as we were afraid that they might become targets. They used to collect drone footage all the time. We knew that. A day before, the kids also saw a drone in the skies. We saw a drone a day before. It would fly exactly above the school building. Everything was planned in advance. The Azerbaijanis knew that there was the school and deliberately chose that as a target. They also knew the time when the morning exercises were being held. They just made a mistake in their calculations of about a few minutes. They targeted the school at exactly the moment when all the kids would gather together in front of the building. The stories of the children and the elders leave no doubt whatsoever that the surveillance UAVs made the Azerbaijani military fully aware of the coordinates of the school, and the school was their target. The timing was also chosen on purpose, to have the children lined up in the yard. It's only by coincidence that tens of children were lucky to survive, but one of them, 12-year-old ARTSAKH Grigoryan, died. It's very difficult for an ordinary person to imagine such things. a surveillance machine dispatched on purpose to check the coordinates of the school and the curriculum. The artillery targeted the school, again on purpose, knowingly and with specific intent to kill children. On the day of the funeral, when we were on our way back, they fired onto the cemetery in Martuni, thinking the farewell ceremony was taking place there. Then one Azerbaijani news website published a picture taken during the funeral and wrote that, look how the Armenians are fleeing Karabakh. During the undeclared war against the people of Nagorno-Karabakh, launched by Azerbaijan on April 2nd, 2016, one child was killed and a few others wounded. Exactly the same methods were deployed that killed 12-year-old Aramais Sahakyan on April 12, 1991, in Getashen, during the terrorist Operation Ring against the people of Nagorno-Karabakh. The criminal policies of Azerbaijan haven't changed. Baku has been at war against the children and the elderly too, aiming to expel Armenians from their ancestral lands by means of terrorism and genocide. I will become a soldier when I grow up because I want to take revenge for ARTSAKH and for all my friends. Your dad is a military man. Who do you want to become when you grow up? An officer. But maybe peace will be established by then. That doesn't matter. And I'm sure that my dad and other military men will always protect us. In the beginning, he did not want to return. He was still afraid. Well, he is a kid. And now he always tells me, Mom, when will I recover to return home, to our Zoravan and to our school? And he is also missing his dad. He's wearing Dad's shirt to be closer to him, as he says. We will never leave here. We have no place to go. This is our land. We have no other place on this planet. We will fight for our lands, for our motherland, because we don't want war. We want our kids to live in peace, and for that horrible noise of explosions to stay in the past as a bad memory. This war also has the face of a child. Those kids that realized very early in their lives about artillery shellings, weaponry blasts, and the wounds of their brothers and friends, and even death. They wear the shirts of their fathers who defend the motherland in order to be closer to them. They stay in their village and continue studying in their school, because generations of devoted sons and daughters of ARTSAKH have been living on these lands for centuries. Because they are the sons of warriors. These children dream of becoming warriors when they grow up, to defend their motherland and in the name of their slain friend. They are invincible.